I said this is going to be the strangest
It really
interview
is.
because I'm interviewing somebody that interviews me.
Right, and if I try to turn it around,
That's fine.
if you ask me a question and I'm like, oh well, blah blah blah, what do you think about blah blah blah? Okay.
Because we do hard-hitting.
I would hope
news
so.
here.
I would hope so.
Well, that's what Branson's all about.
That is correct.
Hey, I am out here actually, because we started already, with Joshua Clark. And I wanted to talk to you because you have been here for quite some time in Branson. You
Yes,
work for
sir.
the newspaper, the Tri Lakes.
Branson Tri Lakes News, that
Branson
is
Tri
correct.
Lakes. And you interview entertainers quite a bit, and you cover shows.
I do. I have a very interesting job. Folks tell me all the time, you get paid to go and see shows. I'm like, well, yes, ma'am. And then you interview people afterwards. Yes.
Yeah.
That must be awesome. I'm like, sometimes it's really cool and sometimes it's not.
Well, there you go. That's what I want to talk to you
Yeah.
about, all the dirt. So how long you been, how long have you worked in Branson
Okay.
covering this?
Often, my first year in Branson was 93.
Okay.
I was 15 or 16 years old. And my father came up here after the 60 Minutes piece aired in 91 or 92, right around the big boom, as we like to call it here in town.
Right.
So my first job is what is now called the Dutton Inn. It's behind the Duttons. It was the Boxcar Willie Motel at the time. Mm-hmm. Here I was, this 15-year-old kid, getting paid, I guess it was 12 or 14 bucks an hour, under the table, of course, as an unskilled laborer. Dude, they actually gave me a jackhammer to operate. A jackhammer, yes. So for like 3 or 4 days,
I don't even use a regular hammer.
I mean-
like that scares me to death.
no training, no safety court, no nothing, no hard hat, nothing. So I'm bah, 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 and this guy walks up to a room on the first day and he says, you might want to stand away from it a little bit because if you lose control of it, it'll tear your feet apart.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would hold it about where you are right now and do that. I almost got beat up as well. We were supposed to throw concrete out of a flower bed. My brother and I thought it'd be a funny idea to see how far we could throw the concrete. Little did we know that on the other side of the hill at the bottom, there were some guys doing plumbing. This guy walks out, he's got a big knot on his head where I hit him with a piece of concrete. Needless to say, the next year, I did not go back to work in construction. Mm-hmm. What I did was I went to country music legend Mickey Gilley. I worked for Gilley's Texas Cafe from 94 through 99. I did, started in the dish room.
Uh-huh.
I waited tables, I tended bar, served, all that stuff, and that's how I got to meet Gilley.
Yeah.
And Gilley, he just finished up his last show. It's ridiculous for me to think that someone who should be in the Country Music Hall of Fame, somebody who everybody knows Gilley's,
right.
Even if you can't name one single song the man sang, you still know country music legend Mickey Gilley. So to have him considered as a friend, someone who knows me, someone who calls me by my name, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's just
that's weird.
I mean, it really is. Even before I was a reporter for the paper, that's nothing. And that whole thing came about. Branson is much like the rest of the world, and it's all about who you know.
Right.
I left Branson in 99 and went back to my native. I'm originally from Mississippi. I'm sure you can't tell from this accent that I have. But I went home, married, divorced, all that good stuff, 4 or 5 years. And Hurricane Katrina hits in 2005. Job, car, house, gone. All of it gone. My house was 6 miles from the water, from the coast. So that hit in August, and then in February of the following year, I was here. Mm-hmm. What is now called Branson Central, over on 165 by the Acrobats, across from the White Oak Station, that was called Shake It Up.
Yeah, that's the first place I went when I came to Branson.
My first gig in my new Branson life was I was the general manager of Shake It Up for 2006. Did all kind of foolishness, all kind of crazy stuff there.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
We have a whole episode about roofies.
Oh,
So,
and I tell you what, everybody always tells me, they're like, wow, it must be so fun to run your own club. I'm like, yes, imagine being the only sober person babysitting 400 drunks, and that's what it's like to own your own club. So what I did was I did that for a while, and the longer you're here, the more you work, the more people you get to know. And I met a friend of mine who's a local musician in town who currently works at the radio station, a dude by the name of Sam Clanton. Sam's a really talented mandolin player, plays guitar, banjo, all that good stuff. Really solid dude. Mm-hmm. Sam was a friend of the lady that I was seeing at the time. And the person that owned Shake It Up, let's just say that he lacked certain moral fiber.
Oh, really?
Yes, and he ended up being a guest of the state of Arkansas.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yes.
That's where you want to be a guest.
I mean, never did I ever think that taking a job would result in me having to go to a deposition by an attorney, but it happened.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, after that year, no gig. I wanted to get out of the restaurant business. That's what I had done for a while. So I met Sam. At this time, Sam was the editor for the Stone County Gazette. He says, you're a pretty smart person. You seem pretty well read, pretty well spoken. He said, you ever thought about being a writer? I'm like, well, yeah, of course. Why would I not? TV show, actor, whatever. Sure, yeah. I'll try anything. Whatever. I don't see why I couldn't do it. So he said, well, they're looking for a sports editor at the Independent. And I said, okay. I didn't think anything of it. My lady friend at the time, she's like, you need to go. You need to, we'll see.
She says that in broken English.
Yeah. We'll see. So finally he calls me up one day. He's like, they're going to be there at 5 o'clock today. You need to go up there and talk to them. I said, okay. So he tells, oh, by the way, you need to write something. I'm like, what do I write? He's like,
just got homework.
Just pick a story. I said, okay. So I'm a big Saints fan, so I wrote something about the Saints.
Like Catholic Saints?
No. Well, I mean, yes, I do like, as a matter of fact, if you want to talk about Saints, have you ever heard of the Saint? His name is Saint Expedite.
No.
Okay. Interesting story. In New Orleans, all sorts of old school French Catholic, old school churches, all right? One church in particular is still on the quarter. Can't think of the name of it, or even the street that it's on. That church started in Europe. When they moved over to New Orleans, they boxed up statues of the saints to send them over to put in St. Patrick's there and all these other saints. There's one that they didn't know who it was. On the box, it said Expedite, which of course means open quickly, or quick. Yes. So they started calling this Saint Expedite. They put him in the back corner of the church, and that's the patron saint that people would go to when they needed something in a hurry. My light bill's due tomorrow, blah, 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 this and that and the other. Boom, there you go.
Right.
So I always thought that was really, really cool. But that's
you
just...
need to watch our episode where my wife and I had an unexpected vacation to Rome. Mm-hmm. We were supposed to go to China, and our visa... We went to the airport in Springfield. Only the Springfield airport would not let us on the plane because of a spelling error. We called, everything was fine with everybody else except for one person in Branson. So we had to pick a different destination. We said, where's your next flight? Rome. So we go to Rome, and we end up crashing the former Pope's last Mass. We snuck into it. We later found out we inadvertently snuck in. And we were right down front with all the...
Were you blessed?
We were. I was blessed by the Pope. So
Are you Catholic?
No.
That's even better.
I know. And so we go, and we're there. My wife is watching the Pope on the screen. I don't want to tell the whole story. We have a whole episode. But she's like, look, that's the Pope. And I go, he's standing right behind you. And she turned around, and he was there. Like, we were down front. So later we found out, after going on a tour with some people, that we snuck in with a group of German people. We just happened to be with this Mass. They all went in. They were special guests of the Pope down front. You had to have some sort of passes or tickets to get into the last Mass. And they're like, those were premium. Like, people have been trying to get those all year. And you just went in. I'm like, yeah, here's a picture of us with the Pope, me pointing at the Pope, me doing this, me holding out playing cards with the Pope behind me.
Doing a selfie.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, we're not Catholic.
God, that's awesome. But see, but as we do, full circle, back around, Catholic Saints, New Orleans Saints. God, where were we? Big fan of the, okay.
So the newspaper.
I wrote a story, yes. Mm-hmm. I wrote a story about the Saints had just shipped a troubled wide receiver to Atlanta. I'm not a big fan of the Falcons, being a Saints fan. We'll get into that later. So I show up, my first interview for the newspaper. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a college degree. All right, I went to junior college for a little while. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a history major. I realized, hey, I can make $200 a night waiting tables. Why the hell would I want to, be a teacher? Right. Looking back now, I really totally wish that I would have finished up.
Yeah.
But I go in for my first interview, and they're like, the editor reads it, hands it to the publisher. Publisher reads it, hands it back to the editor. Editor says, what do you think? Says, well, the kid can write. Editor says, all right, be here Monday morning. So that's how I got a job as the sports editor for the Branson Independent here in town. Now, keep in mind, I had no formal training. No journalism school, no journalism class.
You fit right in.
No, I did. I fit right in. I sat at my desk for a week and a half waiting for someone to tell me what it was I was supposed to do. And finally, the design editor, she's like, "Are you going to go to a game at all?" I'm like, "There are games? When do these games start?" And she kind of
you speak of?
Yes. So basically, what happened was, I started down a long journey of one of my greatest strengths also being a biggest weakness, because I didn't go to journalism school, because I wasn't classically trained as it were. Like, I don't have any of those, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. So people say, "Oh, we really dig what you do." And I'm like, well, that's because it's raw and it's more stream of consciousness than anything.
Yeah. I know that exact feeling.
So that's a lot of fun. So I get a little, difference.
Yeah.
But I did that. I did sports for 2009 and 2010. 2007, 2008. And then 2009, I got the opportunity to go to the Branson Tri Lakes News. And they had just lost the person that did entertainment. And they did one entertainment page, not really a presence in the entertainment community.
Branson Entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, why would you? Why would you?
Sense.
So they said, "Look, here's what we want you to do. We want you to cover this and this and this." Okay, that's fine. But, we want you to do feature stories. There's a lot of really cool entertainers. Gary S. Paxson. The man produced the Monster Mash. The old school song, Alley Oop, the Hollywood Argyle tune. So he lives here in town.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. He's got orange hair. He goes by Grandpa Rock now. He's awesome. Be sure that you have a whole lot of batteries if you ever decide to get Gary, because he will put you on lockdown. He really will. But it's so interesting. He's got a really cool story. There are people, the group Brewer and Shipley, who wrote the tune "One Toke Over the Line," Sweet Jesus, "One Toke Over the Line," 70s tune. One of those cats lives in town. There's a whole bunch of different people who have done a whole lot that live here in town. So they said, "Why don't you do feature stories?" I said, "Okay, I can do that." Well, after 2 or 3 feature stories, there was a massive shakeup at the paper. The editor the publisher who had been there for a long time was let go. And our new publisher came in, a fellow by the name of Mike Schuver. Mike is also the vice president of our company, of Lancaster Newspapers. So not only do we have a new boss, but he's like a big boss. So he comes in and tells me, he said, "Hey, look, I've been reading your stuff." He said, "We are a newspaper in the live show capital of the world, and we don't have an entertainment presence." He said, "I want to change that." I said, "Okay, so what do we need to do?" He said, "I'll give you 2 or 3 pages an issue. Do what you do." He's like, "You've already got a door in." My brother, all right, so I leave in 99, and my brother Justin stays here in town. And Justin goes to work at Applebee's waiting tables. He worked with me at Gillies. He waits on a group one night. Turns out they had just purchased a theater here in town. It was the old Christie Lane Theater. It's not even here anymore. But the show was Legends in Concert.
Oh, yeah.
So my brother goes to work as a stage manager for Legends in Concert. 19 years old, about to turn 20. He does that for 2 or 3 years. The guy that does Elwood Blues gets hurt. Rob Horton, he throws his back out, has to have emergency surgery. They say he's done. Well, his partner, who he's been with for 15 years, is going to be out of a job unless he can find another partner.
Right.
And my brother's like, "I can do that." Like, I've seen y'all do this 12 shows a week for 3 solid years.
I know.
You didn't know that? You know Justin? Yeah. That's my little brother.
Oh, wow.
And now that you know, you're going to look at me and you're going to be like, "Oh, I can totally see that."
No,
now.
because I met Bucky years ago. And we used to go to Legends all the time. My daughter was obsessed with Legends. She loved the Temptations when they were there, whatever. And so we went, and I heard that that they were going to change some things with the Blues Brothers. All my friends were like, "You should go out for that," because I was an acrobat.
Right.
And they're like, "You could do the moves. You could do." I'm like, "I'm not really a singer," and they're like, "Come on, you can do it."
Bow. That's all.
Yeah, they're like, "You could do this. You could do this." And so that was a goal of. That's crazy. I did not know that.
So Justin did that for like 15,
sense.
16 years. Yeah. So I had that in. When I first started, people were like, "Hey, aren't you Justin's brother?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Blah blah blah. So I went from doing sports to doing entertainment, and then it's like, it's a completely and totally different world. And see, I credit that time that I spent hanging out backstage, meeting different people, going on remotes, going on what do you guys call them whenever you promos?
Oh yeah,
there you go. Going on promos and doing little things like that, and seeing how they act when they're on stage, and seeing how different they are when they're,
right.
Oh, we got to go. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. Excuse me while I plaster on a fake smile.
No one knows that better than me.
I bet.
Because people are always shocked when they see me backstage. They're like, you're a depressing. I am a Bucky. I am very, everything bothers me.
Like
it's too
Eeyore.
cold. It's too hot. It's, the sun's bothering me right now. And then you go on stage and it's a whole different ballgame. But I'll tell you what, we got to take a quick break. And when I come back, we're going to talk about...
We probably went way over.
Probably.
Yeah.
But oh well. So we will be back. Hey, today's podcast is being brought to you by Mr. G's Chicago-style pizza and pub in Branson. Stop down to Mr. G's, pick up a great lunch or dinner, and enjoy some great service down at Mr. G's. Thanks for hosting us today.
Smells awful good.
It does. Is it difficult for you? Most of your reviews that I've read are always positive, and that's what we do here. We want to promote the good things.
Yes.
There are things I don't like, shows I don't like.
But you can't say it.
But I don't bring it up. I just interview the people that I do like, and so it's just accentuate the positive.
Yes,
I guess.
it's a challenge, and see, I can't do what we would call honest reviews, because in order to do a review, you have to do the good and the bad.
Right.
All right. Nothing loses you credibility quicker than if everything that you do is, oh, it was great, it's the best thing, it's high energy, it's high this, it's blah, 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 it's the greatest thing ever, blah, blah. No. Okay. If you pick up a copy of the Branson Tri Lakes News and you see that I wrote a review, if you check my editorial and you see that I wrote a review of something, you best believe that it was fantastic.
Right.
It was absolutely fantastic. And I get it, because we're all in the same boat. Okay. We're all in the business of entertaining the people that come here to Ozark Mountain Country to spend this time with us.
Right.
And there are people that I know that I have known for 5, 10, 15 years that are in shows that I wouldn't recommend to people. And it's not that I necessarily think that it's a bad show. In some cases, it is a bad show. And a lot of times they know, this is kind of what
Those
we're
get
doing.
weeded out, though.
They really
very
do.
much have, ironically, natural selection.
I mean, really.
Where things get weeded out.
And that's one of the cool things with so many theaters closing. With like the Oak Ridge Boys, that theater's going away. They're moving to the Mansion. That's a theater that's been empty for 4 years, 5 years, boom. It's going to have a full lineup next year.
Right.
They're going to tear down the old Oaks Theater to put the hospital there. The Grand Palace, same thing. It's just been sitting there. It's been sold.
We
don't
talked
know
about that yesterday.
We don't know the plans specifically yet, or at least I don't know the plans specifically yet. But, it's one of those things where if you don't have at least some talent, you're not going to be on stage. So everybody does something well, but on the flip side of that coin, just because you have a huge theater and a big budget and pyro and this and this and this does not mean that you have a good show.
Right.
It's like going and watching a Michael Bay movie,
Who does that?
You might get. I do.
Why do you put yourself through that?
I will. You know what? I liked Armageddon. I
liked Armageddon.
See,
but the Transformers stuff.
and that's really disappointing, especially the last one. Poor Marky Mark.
I couldn't even do it. I thought it was a joke. I'm pretty sure that movie was made on a dare, just like all the Twilight.
I mean,
movies,
and what I really enjoyed about that is he had no intention of coming back to direct it, and the script was so bad that no one else wanted to direct it, so he was forced to come by and direct it. But I kind of feel that way about some Branson shows. Like there are some shows like we were talking earlier before the interview about Mike Walker. Hey, Mike Walker has a great show. It's just Mike.
I hear that all the time.
It's Mike and a table with like wigs and puppets and props and a sound man.
Yeah.
There's some tracks. Mike does 1,000 different voices. He can sound like Conway Twitty. Dude, he sounds so much like Mike. Like I hate Michael Bolton. Michael Bolton.
Yeah.
And when I heard Mike Walker sing in his Michael Bolton voice, I wanted to choke him. So there's no greater compliment that I can give someone that does an impression of someone that I dislike. Yes, dude, you were so good. I wanted to choke the life out of you.
That's like a Hallmark card.
Yes, it really is. You're so good.
When you just said that, you took the form of like a unicorn.
Trademark.
TM.
Yes, that's right. So, but, that's one of those cases where it's just one dude on the stage.
Yeah.
He's got some lights, not really a lot of effects or anything. But
look at all the shows that came to town over the years. Your Willie Nelson, your Wayne Newtons, all of that.
Waylon, Willie, Loretta, Johnny Cash, they didn't make it in Branson.
Yeah.
And do you know why they didn't make it in Branson? Do you know why they didn't make it in Branson?
Why?
They did not do they did their road show. They did a concert. Okay. people in Branson, they don't want to see a concert. They want to. You cannot enjoy your ice cold Pepsi Cola product and your popcorn from the concession stand if you're at a concert. Now you can if you're at a show.
Yeah.
And you know, Willie, he walked out on stage, and this is one of my favorite Branson stories. Willie walked out on stage one night. There were 19 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
And right before he kicked into Whiskey River, he looked around and saw. He turned around and said, "Close the curtain. Give these people their money back. Load up the bus. We're gone."
Oh, really?
And he was gone. He was done. And that's a lot. You know, they want to see shows, and that's why Shoji's been here so long. Dude, when Gilly first came here, Gilly's first 2 years, he had his girls, the Urbanettes, who he still had this last year, but the Urbanettes would do the first half of the show. They would come out, and one of the girls would do a couple songs, and then the other girl would do a couple songs, and they'd do a couple together, take an intermission, and then Gilly would come out. People were upset. People wanted to see Gilly. So Gilly completely and totally changed the format. He did 2 hours. In 93, got Joey Riley to come on as comedian and just went to the top. So you never, it's just like in the outside world. You know, you could have all the intangibles of a great Hollywood movie or story, actor, script, director, all that stuff. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know?
I had that happen. My first year here, I was so busy and so intent on putting the show together. I brought the show I was doing in New York at the time. And I had this show. I knew it worked. I had done it thousands of times. And then the second year, I started going to other shows. And I went to Mickey Gillies. I saw Joey Riley. I went to Legends. And I learned what people wanted was that connection. They liked feeling like they were like you were just one of them up there performing. And so I changed it. And it was just little things that I picked up, like at Clay Cooper's and stuff, of just, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, talking to somebody. People would talk back to you. I thought that was weird the first year. And once you do that and realize that that's what people expect, it changed everything. It changed it all. And so now my whole show is just interacting with the audience.
And you know what? Look at, you brought up a great point with Clay Cooper. All right. Clay told me, he's like, I'm not the best bass player in the world. I'm not the best singer in the world. He said, I want to be the best entertainer in the world.
That's what I say at the end of my show.
And that
I say, I hope I amazed you. I hope I amused you. But most of all, I hope I entertained you.
And that's it, man. And that's what it's all about. Like this whole program right here, like we can be just babbling on about whatever, but as long as whoever's watching is entertained, then that's, I mean, we're entertained.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're entertaining, but we're definitely entertained. Of course we are. But especially with Clay, going through and picking out people in the audience and being able to remember 3 or 4 different names and where these people are from and keep that running gag through the whole show. I mean, that's really cool. And those touches are what, like, there's a reason why Gilly stayed and signed autographs after every show. There's a reason why when Bob Cannella brings in up-close acts, when not Trace Atkins, that's a bad example, when Peter Noon comes in, when Pam Tillis comes in, these people sign autographs after the show.
Unless they go out and get on the buses, Tim Haygood. And I always kid him.
But they do, like, and it's written into their contract, because when people come to see a show in Branson, they want to feel like they're a part of it. They want to feel like, because they feel a sense of ownership. We started coming here when there was only 2 theaters on that strip, and it was the Ball Knobbers and the Presley and nothing else.
We've had entertainers that I've worked with that want to brag about all their accomplishments, and I did this, and I won this, and I did, and it doesn't fly.
No,
like they don't want to hear that.
No,
they want to know that
they want to hear. I stubbed my toe this morning. I hit my head on my car as I was out of oil, or whatever it is, stuff that people can relate to. And that's really what kind of you look around and the big stars, they're gone.
Right.
They really are. I mean, we have Billy Dean. If you never met Billy or you haven't seen Billy's show, Billy's fantastic. He's got, when you watch Billy's show, you're like, wow, I didn't realize he sang that song. I completely and totally forgot that he sang this song. He's got a smoking band. Those boys play loud. It's awesome. It really is a good, high-quality show. But outside of Billy, there's not really anybody, now that Gilly's gone, there's not really anybody here that has that instant name recognition, which gave way to shows like Clay Cooper and the Haygoods and AO. The Cole family, those kids are fantastic. That's one of my favorite shows in this town.
Well, what I want to do when we come back is talk about some trends that you've noticed over the last years. Last few years. So we'll be right back, coming to you from Mr. G's Pizza and Pub. Thank you for supporting All Things Branson. Be sure to subscribe and stay in touch on Facebook and Twitter. but sometimes it's a job for you. Just like for me. Like sometimes going out on stage, people are like, "Oh, you have so much fun all the time. We can tell you enjoy it." And that's one of the days when it's work. Some days it's work.
Oh, it really
you
is.
have to go cover certain things.
And before I say this, I want to preface it by saying that this is in no way, shape, or form talking bad about the quality of a show that I'm about to name. Okay, but it is really difficult for me to wake up in the morning and go, what do I want to do today? Oh, yeah, let's go see the ABBA show. Nobody wants to watch Fernando at night at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know. Right. However, those kids do a hell of a job. The sound is great. Like, they have some talent. It's a well put together show. And there again, I missed the ABBA craze. So I didn't realize how big they were, but I knew all those tunes.
Right.
And they don't do just strictly ABBA. But yes, that is one of the things that is really hellish as far as my job goes, is to go and see things like when you see somebody murdering a Waylon Jennings song. You know what? It's not that you can't sing, it's just you can't sing Waylon. So don't try.
Right. Yes.
Pick another song.
I do that all the time. I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yes. No.
Why are you,
yes.
you know, especially in my work as a magician,
right.
all right? First of all, I don't hang out with other magicians, and there's a few reasons why, okay? One is I don't want to talk about work when I'm off stage. And a lot of people want to. I don't do tricks unless I'm being paid for it.
Right.
That's a lesson I learned a long time ago. Or else every time you show up to something, someone will say, hey, did you bring your cards with you? You know, I have no long stories of getting invited to a party and being excited that I was finally getting invited to a party here in Branson. And they're like, oh, by the way, could you bring a couple things? Because there's going to be some kids.
We need a cage and a cat.
Yeah, but see, I don't do that. And that's the other thing, is that people assume that all magic is the same. Just like you don't go to a concert, a classic music concert, and expect them to play Walk This Way by Aerosmith.
Right.
There's different levels, there are different types. I'm not an illusionist. I think they move furniture around on stage, and I don't have the patience for it or the money for it. And kind of what we were talking about simple shows, is that I had a famous magician from Vegas give me advice one time. And he said, make sure if you're traveling, you can go to Walmart and buy your show. And so everything I do on stage, with the exception of very few props like a straitjacket, I can go and buy if my luggage gets lost.
I never even thought about that.
Well, this happened to me. I was doing a world tour for cruise ships. Literal world tour. I was flying to Tokyo, getting on a ship, and staying on it until we got to Miami. And moving between a few ships that were going around the globe. And I get to Tokyo, joining the ship the next morning. My luggage doesn't make it from Springfield. And they say, well, your luggage will be here in 3 days. Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm getting on a ship. And so I had to put together an entire show from the gift shop.
It's gone.
Yes, from the gift shop. And so that was when the magician said, here's your thing. So a lot of people have this misconception that I don't like magicians. Right. Here's what I don't like. I don't like crappy magicians.
Yes.
And when I came to Branson, and it kind of leads into what I wanted to ask you about, the very first show I ever saw was the Presleys. Okay? Came in, saw the billboards. They have like a bazillion of them. I thought, I got to see this thing. Apparently, they're making money. And so I go that night, hadn't even unpacked, and said, I'm going to see this show. Well, I was working on an illusion where in the middle of my show, I could lean way over, talk to somebody in the front row, and come back up. Okay? Like a Michael Jackson sort of.
Right.
I go, and they're doing that in their show. Not as a trick, not as a showcase piece or anything.
Just like a bit.
A bit.
Yeah.
And so this is the way I think. I think I want to be different. I don't want to do that. I don't want people coming out to me and saying, hey, we saw somebody do that in the Presley show. So I scrapped this routine that I paid $1,000 for. I'd never performed. Brought it here and wrote something new that night. Okay? Then I see other entertainers that come into town and they go to a bunch of shows and they cherry pick.
They do.
You know what I'm talking about.
Dude, I know exactly what you're talking
and
about.
I have had some that have come to me and said, oh, before I came to Branson, I did some research, saw your videos, and you did this, this, and this. I loved it. I see you're not doing it anymore, so I'm going to do it at my show.
Right.
Or I know of entertainers that will go to another show in town that's similar to what they do. Let's say a magician. And they go, and then 2 weeks later, they're doing routines, and I'll say, why are you doing that? Well, it was so well received. Don't do that. Like, that is bad.
It's
like,
not going to be well received if you can go see it 8 different places.
Exactly.
You know what? And I'll tell you what, I love Johnny Cash. Love me some Johnny Cash. But I don't need to hear Ring of Fire every time I go to a show.
Exactly.
I don't need to hear Walk the Line every time I go to a show.
Orange Blossom Special.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
See, dude, there used to be, like, it was a city ordinance. that you had to perform the Orange Blossom Special
Yeah.
in your show.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to ask you, is that you cover all these shows,
Mm-hmm.
and we have an issue, because Branson is so small, I will get a hold of some entertainers, I'll say, I would like to have you on as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
A few days later, I can't be a guest because I see that you interviewed so-and-so.
Right.
You know, but I never endorse anything. I'll say, like, well, I enjoyed it.
Right.
Or, I don't say this is my favorite thing. And so I think that's weird. Like, you wouldn't want the exposure just because of somebody else appearing 2 months ago. So what are some of the trends that you see? Do you see a lot of these shows that come in and try to copy the Presleys and the Mabes, and it doesn't work out? Are you noticing a certain trend now with entertainers in the last few years?
I tell you what I've noticed, especially here in town. Okay, you're looking at roughly 24, 25 years since the 60 Minutes piece aired. And for those of y'all that have never seen it, it's on YouTube. Just Google
We
60
posted
Minutes
it.
Branson.
I posted it.
It's really cool, okay? But of all the entertainers and of all the stars that were featured in that piece, the only one that's still here on a full-time basis is Shoji, okay?
Yeah.
Buck Trent is still here as well. He wasn't as much featured. He appears. Mo Bandy still comes and does a couple shows in town. Okay, those people who came to see all those shows, my grandparents, my great aunts and uncles, and all that, they're either passed away or they don't travel anymore.
Right.
Okay. Now, when I was a kid, our parents would say, "This is where we're going on vacation, and this is what we're going to do." Oh man, I wanted to blah blah blah. Well, you can shut up and stay home. You don't have to. You don't have to go on vacation. Nowadays, parents ask it, and I'm guilty of it. What do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
What would you like to do? Okay. Well, when a kid comes here to Branson, and again, this is no way, shape, or form. I have to preface that by saying everything. Kids don't want to go see a toothless redneck play the banjo. They don't want to see somebody play a jug, okay? Not that there's not a market for that, okay?
Yes.
But not throughout the whole year. So that's why you see, look at the Starlight. They have an illusionist coming in. They have Reza coming in this summer. They have the Buckets and Boards boys, okay? There are shows that appeal to that demographic. Look at Legends, okay? This past summer, they had a Taylor Swift tribute artist.
Yes, I
They
heard
had
people complain.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And some people, old people, they don't want to see
They don't
Taylor
wanna see
Swift.
it.
They don't want to
They
see.
were great.
No,
They were
yes,
fantastic.
And see, that's just
They're
it.
like, why do we have Taylor Swift?
Somebody asked me, they're like, "What you think about that Taylor Swift impersonator?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know enough about Taylor Swift's music to damn this person or not, but I can tell you that she did fine." And those legs were awesome. Like, that's all that I was like.
Which is weird, because you said the same thing about the Johnny Cash guy.
Well, I mean, Paulie has some great legs. He really does. They're awful white.
Yeah.
But no, you're definitely seeing that sort of geared towards that younger demographic.
Yeah.
And look at the attractions that are coming. We've got the new place directly across the street from Legends.
Yeah.
The Fritz's Adventure.
Fritz's.
All
We
right.
talked about that with the mayor. We got all the zip lines.
Yeah, exactly.
We got
All
the
go-karts,
the room, the puzzle. What's it called?
Code.
Code blue, code red, code whatever. But I'm interviewing them. I should know this. But you know what I mean.
And see, I haven't been over there to get locked into that room. Like, I want to try that out. But yes, you're totally right. You're seeing those things. Ripley's, the Titanic, the Wax Museum.
But do you notice this? And this is a pet peeve of mine, where somebody comes in with what I consider a unique idea in Branson, a zip line. Now there's 5. Or, that room, they're going to come in as the original one, but I guarantee if they're successful, there'll be one at the landing. There'll be one at better locations.
There's already one going in at the landing.
See, I hate that.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay. But if you look at, like, going back to your original question, as far as people taking stuff from, like, Presses and Baldwiners, okay, there's one show that has done that. And it's not necessarily that they set out to do that, but Mike Patrick at Grand Country. Okay, the Grand Jubilee Show. The Grand Jubilee Show takes everything that you would want from a Branson show. All right, everything that the Presleys did, from the comedy to the characters to the big bands. They take all that stuff and they turn it on its head. Okay, like, you go see. It's the Grand Country. It's Grand Jubilee is the name of the show. Grand Jubilee is the name of the show. Okay. Well, when you go see a show called Grand Jubilee, you might not expect to hear a Loggins and Messina tune, or a Elton John tune, or something like that, or an Elvis tune. You might expect to hear an Elvis tune, but you expect to hear All Shook Up or Hound Dog or something like that. They do. Dude, they opened the show, or they did last year. They opened the show with there's an 80s group called the Bus Boys. They did a song called The Boys Are Back in Town. It was the theme song for 48 Hours, Eddie.
Right.
That's what they opened last year's show with. And the second song was an Elvis tune from the 70s called Way Down. awesome song that you never, ever, ever hear. All right? So those were their first 2 songs. They do an awesome arrangement of Danny's song. The Kenny Loggins tune. Anne Marie also did a cover of it. Just like, I got goosebumps. Their piano player, Michael W. Davis.
So they do their own spin.
They do. They really do their own. And that is cool. That is really, really cool. And then you've got other shows like Forever Young. All right. I don't know if you got to see those boys. It's kind of like
I work with 2 of them.
Okay.
So,
well, of course, dude. I love being a writer and then being at a loss for words. Their selection of music. I mean, dude. I never thought I would hear a David Bowie song on stage in Branson. And when I went to that show, I heard a David.
Yeah, they're going to be at Stafford.
I know, and they're doing 8 o'clock shows, and that's so smart. You know, the matinee market has fallen off because you've got the lake, you got Silver Dollar City, you got all these things to do, and plus it don't get dark till 9 o'clock in the summertime. Right. So, you know, if you have an afternoon matinee show that's just a show, you're probably hurting. Now, spring, fall, winter, that's all fine, but in the summertime, you got to bring your A game.
Right.
You really do. So I can see more high quality things coming than the low quality stuff. Legends as well. You know, we talked about them. They've announced their lineup for next year. All right. Adele released her album last month. Huge, biggest selling album ever of all time in the history of whatever. JC Brando, the girl that does Adele, she's going to be back next year. Yeah. They're smart like that. They're looking ahead. They're bringing it. They want acts that are going to bring in the kids. You know, when The Little Mermaid was here.
What's that?
When The Little Mermaid was here.
Right.
One of the biggest tragedies in town is that you had a great venue with the full massive LED screen behind it, okay? Yeah. You had the name, you had Disney, and you had Little Mermaid. You had all the rights that go on with it, and yet the person in charge just sort of ran it into the ground, okay?
Yes.
If you want to survive in this town between May and September, you have to have something that you see little kids pulling mom and dad and going, I want to see that. Because there's a lot of stuff that they don't care anything about seeing.
Yeah, right.
You know, they want to go to Ripley's. They want to go to...
I don't understand how that... I had friends that were in that show.
Me too. And it breaks my heart. It does. Mm-hmm. But there again, you know, when you look at how it all went down in the backstory and all that stuff, not really surprising.
People think it's easy. We've talked about it with entertainers that try to four-wall it here. And, you know... the Mag 7 show and some of those, and just how much work it really is.
And you know, you can talk to Joe and Tamara right now, and every time I talk to Tamara, she's like, we're happy to still be here. We're happy to be at the Hamners Theater.
It's a lot of work.
It is, you know what? And you saw the documentary, you know, Though We Always Lie to Strangers.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel for them, and every time I see Tamara, I'm always like, hey, you know, how are you? Know, they own the old timey photo.
Yeah, we did a little thing with the kids there.
Dude, that is so awesome. Like, and that just goes to show you, you know, you can go to. Oh, there's a Star Wars trailer on TV. Sorry. You can go to these shows and see a person on stage singing their heart out, and then that afternoon you can go and have dinner, and they'll be your waitress. Yeah. Not too many places in America are like that.
All right. Well, we'll be back in just 1 minute. I just have a few more questions for you, and we're going to wrap it up.
All right.
Thank you for supporting All Things Branson. Be sure to subscribe and stay in touch on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, you need to come on Branson Life sometime and talk about this.
You just let me know.
Hey, I just want to remind everybody that we're at Mr. G's here, Pizza and Pub in Branson, Missouri.
And this is, if I'm not bad mistaken, this is the new look Mr. G's, right?
It is the new look.
They kept the same recipes and the same great food quality. Gave the interior a little facelift and everything. It's really cool.
You know what? We did a few episodes here with Mike Maples that has the Union.
Right.
And he's a big supporter of Mr. G's. He's just across the street.
Isn't that funny that a fitness nut loves pizza so much?
He talks about that. We actually discussed that.
Awesome.
Or he says you can eat whatever you want. Moderation is the key.
Yes, I guess so.
So he tells the whole story here about how, you know, it's a younger guy, he's right over there, that owns the place, and he came in, remodeled it, and this was his thing. And it's very successful.
And I've heard nothing but high praise for this place. The aforementioned Mike Patrick that we talked about earlier, Mike said this is one of his favorite places. Just come down and grab something to eat. And so you never know who you're going to see at Mr. G's.
That's right.
Correct.
Come into Mr. G's. But hey, Star Wars movie. We're both Star Wars freaks. You have a Star Wars shirt on. I took mine off for this.
Mine says, I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I could force choke someone. That'd be so awesome. No, I mean, like, not really for harm, but just across the room.
Yeah. So that would be awesome, actually.
Yeah, it would.
But our family is huge into Star Wars. Our Christmas tree, which I'll try to put a picture up, is Star Wars. The star on the top is a trooper helmet because I collect all the helmets and all of that. So we have the armor and we have all that stuff. But we saw the movie.
Yes.
And what part, I figure that a lot of people can't see the movie.
Yes.
They're not going to make it.
Yes.
So let's just sum it up, from the opening shot when is,
Yes.
and we're just going to when she.
Yes. I can't believe that JJ had the audacity to back in such a high profile capacity. And maybe whenever we're doing just not thinks.
Yeah.
And then we can stuff is going to be.
They're like.
Yes.
Yeah. And he comes up behind. Not expecting that. Not in a Star Wars movie. And they just, when they by the shades of.
I was really sort of, I really applaud the decision to make sexual. We always knew that
you
it was
talk
gonna
about
have. Really? They're going to change it to now?
Yeah. So I just, sorry, I got a hair in my mouth.
Oh, that's good.
You know what bothers me about Chewbacca, and it's just not fair, is that the poor guy can't even pronounce his own name.
I know.
How does he pronounce his name?
And how does Han understand him? Is he always just like, well, I think this is what he's saying?
Yeah. And R2-D2, the most obscene character, because they have to beep everything he says.
Everything he says. But that's why he's been around for so long.
You read the books,
he
though.
just tells. I stopped reading once they made the extended universe.
Yeah, I just finished the books that are part of this series now,
See,
Aftermath.
I enjoyed the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the and Dark Rising and The Last Command. Those three Timothy Zahn books, they were and we were really hoping that when Lucas announced that they were going to make the prequels, we were really hoping that it was going to be the and they were going to do that.
Yeah.
But I would much rather go through what we went through with the prequels to get what we got earlier or late last week when Star Wars came.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy. And then the big twist at the end. The big twist when the mask comes off and it is. Thank you for supporting All Things Branson. Be sure to subscribe and stay in touch on Facebook and Twitter. Check back at allthingsbranson.com for the latest news about Branson, Missouri.